What's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Matt Wyatt. Now, I know you guys are thinking, like, why did you take so long to make new videos? Well, lately I've been under the weather because I've been sick. I caught a bad cold and I couldn't talk very well because I lost my voice for about a week and I was coughing a lot and I just was not ready to make any new videos at this point. I needed to wait for a while for me to get better. And also I've been playing a few new games that I've been wanting to catch up on, like Alan Wake 2, Control, RoboCop, Rogue City. Those games that I've been wanting to play that for a while and I wanted to play catch up. And so that's why I took a little bit of break in my YouTube channel, but now I'm officially back on, and this is going to be a little different video than what I usually do because usually I just review movies and some TV shows now and then. But this is going to be new. I'm going to show off my Blu-ray collection that I've collected in 2023. I mean, I have a lot of Blu-ray collection because I love collecting physical media and buying movies that I actually love. And now we officially see that Best Buy is no longer selling Blu-ray movies because that was one of my go-to a store to go to buy Blu-ray movies. I've been going to that place for years, but now it's no longer selling physical copy. Look, I get why that Best Buy is doing it, but with all due respect, I think they go to hell because that's bullshit. But you know what? It is what it is. The only couple of retail stores that I would rely on getting Blu-ray movies is either Walmart or Amazon. Those are the other two stores, two other retails that I would buy physical copy that they're still selling on the market. Even Target's no longer not selling as much physical media anymore. And that's unfortunate. So I'm going to get into the movies that I purchased in 2023, and I would love to show off the rest of my Blu-ray collection that I've collected in the last decade, but this is going to be a new start of my collection that I'm going to be showing off. So first off, I'm going to show off this horror film called Poltergeist that is directed by Toby Hooper, and this is co-written by Steven Spielberg. This is supposed to be a story for Steven Spielberg, and you're following these family living in a suburban neighborhood, and they're being haunted by a demon ghost. And you got the iconic line when the little girl says, "They're here." I haven't seen this movie for a while now. I've watched like the last time I saw it was like a couple of years ago during the spooky season, and I still haven't watched this on the 4K Blu-ray. I got this for like $10 during the Black Friday sale when it was very cheap at the time during the spooky season, and I got my hands on it, and I'm really excited to watch this in the 4K quality. I don't know what people thought about the 4K transfer. I can't judge for myself because I haven't seen the 4K version, but I'm excited to get into this. Now, next up, I got The Lost Boys. I freaking loved it. I saw this on the 4K Blu-ray, and I was very impressed by the 4K transfer. Yeah, you got an incredible cast like Kiefer Sutherland, who's playing the leader of the cult leader of the vampire, and you got Corey Haim, Corey Feldman, the group of kids who are hunting down vampires. Those were awesome. It's one of the best comedy horror flicks I've seen, and I wish that more people in Hollywood would tackle on it, and hopefully at some point that they can actually make this as a HBO series, and hopefully they can give us a great nostalgia. But also, this is directed by Joel Schumacher, the man who gave us Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. This was a banger movie that Joel Schumacher had directed, and you got an incredible killer soundtrack. It's so good. And if you haven't seen it yet, I think this might still be streaming on Max. I could be wrong, but if you're someone who's a big fan of the original Lost Boys, I encourage you to get this 4K Blu-ray. It's a great transfer. I'm very impressed by the visuals. I can't say about the Dolby Atmos because I don't have a soundbar that is compatible to Dolby Atmos. I only have a soundbar and a subwoofer, and that's it. So yeah, I recommend getting this. And it was worth getting $10 during the Black Friday sale. Now, next up, I got the movie Heat on 4K, and I got this for like $8. And a lot of people were very mixed on the transfer. I myself was not bothered by it. I actually liked the 4K transfer, and I'm glad I got this for $8. And I love this movie. It's one of the best bank robbery heist movie of all time. You got an incredible cast like Robert De Niro and Al Pacino and Val Kilmer. You can do no wrong, and this is directed by Michael Mann. And and fun fact, in case you didn't know, that this is actually a remake to the original Heat that Michael Mann also directed himself. Yeah, I loved how the way it was choreographed with the action scenes, the shootout scenes were so vivid. I encourage you to watch Heat if you have not seen it yet. It's so damn good, and I'm glad I got this. It's definitely worth every penny. Now, next up, I got the M. Night Shyamalan movies, Unbreakable. I think that this is the best M. Night Shyamalan movie that he has ever made by making this movie of more of a grounded superhero story, even though it's technically not a superhero movie. You got Bruce Willis, who has survived a train accident, and he was not supposed to survive. And we later found out that he does have superpowers. He has invulnerability and an incredible strength. And for years he's been denying that he has these powers. He's been trying to live a normal life like everybody else. And then you got Sam Jackson, who is so obsessed with finding people like him. And he's literally the Lex Luthor figure. And Bruce Willis's character is essentially Superman, except that this is in a more grounded, realistic tone and not what you see in comic books. And and you see Sam Jackson is so inspired by this comic book, and he believes that people out there who are having extraordinary abilities, and they exist among us, and he's so obsessed with finding them. He's literally Lex Luthor, just Superman, and I thought this is Sam Jackson's best performance that he's ever given ever. And yeah, the movie Split with James McAvoy was great, but then the follow-up to Unbreakable called Glass was a big of a letdown. But you know what? I will still look back and appreciate this movie for what it was, and the ending was one of the most biggest, greatest plot twist in the history of films that I loved, and it took me off guard. I encourage you to check out Unbreakable if you haven't already. And I think that the 4K transfer was very impressive. The picture quality looked incredible. The sound design looked great. I encourage you to upgrade it if you own a 1080p Blu-ray. Now, next up, I got the original Scream, the 25th anniversary edition for the first time on 4K. This is a day and night 4K transfer. I've seen the comparison to the 1080p Blu-ray to this, and it looks incredible. If you love the original Scream and you want to upgrade this on 4K, or if you don't own a Blu-ray movie, get this instead. It is very impressive. This is my favorite slasher movie of all time, and Wes Craven really revitalized the slasher genre, and it's really a meta of who done it. It's a dark humor. I love the performances, and Nev Campbell really crushed it on her performance. And this really put Nev Campbell on the map and becoming one of the greatest female slasher actresses out there. And I was very impressed with this movie. I think this movie still holds up. Sure, the sequels were not the best, but I still enjoy them for what it was. And I think that I will always watch this during the Halloween spooky season. It's a tradition, and it's my comfort movie to watch. Now, next up, I got Scream 2. I got this like about months ago during the Halloween spooky season, and I was lucky enough to get my hands on this. And yeah, this is another great 4K transfer, and I'm someone thought that this was an underrated sequel that not a lot of people talk about. A lot of people did not like the sequel, and I'm one of the people that thought it was really good. I love the sequel, and I love hanging out with the main characters with Dewey, Sydney, and Gale. They were the only reason why we keep watching this movie, and another movie that they poke fun of a horror sequel, and I loved it. And yeah, the plot twist is something that was unexpected, and it's not for everybody. But you know what? It didn't matter. I have a soft spot for this movie, and I thought it was fantastic. All right, next up is Scream 3. This is the latest installment that they've upgraded to the 4K transfer that came out like in 2023, and luckily I got my hands on it. And I'm not gonna lie to you, the third one is my guilty pleasure. I know a lot of people did not love this third installment of the franchise, but I'm someone who enjoyed it. Again, they continue to have a great dynamic between with Dewey, Gale, and Sidney Prescott. I loved it. I thought Patrick Dempsey, who's playing the detective, was a great addition. Yeah, this is another film that pokes fun of the trilogy, and it really shows the killer killing off Hollywood actors who are part of the cast members of Stab 3 and try to rewrite their own movie. And yeah, the villain of the plot twist that harkens back to the original, I thought that was interesting. But at the same time, the character Roman was the only one pulling all the strings and doing all the killings himself. Kind of felt a little far-fetched because in the first two movies, you always have two Ghostface killers. Oh, but you know what? It doesn't matter. I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a great close off to the trilogy and then great character arc with Cindy. It's one of my guilty pleasures, and I thought the 4K transfer, another impressive picture quality. If you're someone who's a big fan of this film and you want to have a 4K upgrade, I encourage you to get this. It's so good. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people did not like it, but I don't care. Now, next up, I got Training Day on 4K, the 100 year of Warner Brothers that they finally put out like during like earlier the year, and I had a chance to get my hands on it because I owned the 1080p version of Training Day, And I'm going to tell you that right now, this is one of the best transfers that WB has ever done. Very impressed with the picture quality and sound. And Training Day is one of my all-time favorite films. Denzel Washington, Ethan Hawke, their dynamic was so incredible, and and this is well directed and it's well written. And I love how they shot it in the LA to make it feel like a living character. And we see that the rookie cop played by Ethan Hawke is having Denzel Washington taking him under his wing and show him everything, what he's got so that he can make detective. But then as you get further to the movie, you start to see the darker side of the corruption of the police and what they really are. And I thought that how they delivered it was so well done. Denzel Washington was one of my favorite of his performance, period. And it's a movie that I highly recommend checking out if you haven't already. It's supposed to be streaming on Netflix right now, but if you were a fan of Training Day and you want to have a 4K Blu-ray upgrade, or if you don't own the physical copy, get this on 4K. It's worth every penny if you're a fan of Training Day. If you watch this on a 4K Blu-ray format, it looked like it could have came out today. It felt like I was watching it for the first time again. Now, next up, I got the James Cameron's Titanic on 4K, another 4K transfer that James Cameron was planning on doing with including True Lies, The Abyss, and Aliens, and and I was so impressed by the 4K transfer. This is one of my all-time favorite James Cameron movies. I will be reviewing this film very soon after Terminator 2. So I'm excited to get into it because I love what James Cameron had directed. He directed an incredible historical love story, but in the way that they went down to that iceberg, it was so crazy and it was on the edge of your seat. And Leonardo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet's performance were outstanding. I bought the love story between the two of them, and the 4K transfer was very impressive. It was day and night. If you own the 1080p Blu-ray, this is worth the upgrade. Next up, I got Doug Liman's Edge of Tomorrow with Emily Blunt and Tom Cruise. You're following Tom Cruise's character who is reliving the same day over and over again. Yeah, this is a little bit of a ripoff from Groundhog Day, but they did it so well. And this is a film that came out almost 10 years ago. This is pretty much almost the 10th anniversary of this movie. And this is a film that I didn't have any interest in, but because from the trailers, it didn't sold me until I saw the film. It really changed my tune and I loved it. It was one of my favorite movies that came out of like 10 years ago. Emily Blunt was phenomenal. I thought Tom Cruise was great. The action and the visuals were outstanding. I This is one of my comfort movies, and the 4K transfer is absolutely impressive. It's worth the upgrade. If you haven't gotten this 4K Blu-ray already and you love Edge of Tomorrow, definitely get this. And now that we know that Tom Cruise has signed on a deal with WB, and there's a chance that we might get an Edge of Tomorrow sequel that they've been trying to get this movie made for years, but because of the Emily Blunt's of scheduling conflict, but hopefully we can get the sequel soon, rather than later. Now, next up, I got Dune Part 1 on 4K Blu-ray. I know I should have got this from the start when it came out, but it was so expensive that I couldn't afford it at the time. And throughout this year, they were not selling it with the slipcover. And luckily, during the spooky season on the Black Friday sales, they were selling it with a slipcover, and I was so happy to get my hands on this. And it cost $10, and it was worth spending because I love Dune Part 1. I thought what Denis Villeneuve brought to this film was so good. I mean, I'm for one have not read the book. I have, so I can't compare the two of them. So, but according to the people that have read the book, this is more faithful to the book than they did with the David Lynch's Dune. Denis Villeneuve really did a great job of setting up the world, setting up the characters. The cast was in stellar. Timothy Chalamet was phenomenal, and I cannot wait for Dune Part 2, a film that we are supposed to get like back in November. But you know what? I'm better late than never. I'm just hoping that this part two delivers a great spectacle, epic sequel. And yeah, the more I watch this movie, the better it gets. Now, next up, I got Top Gun Maverick. This is a movie that I've been wanting to get my hands on the 4K Blu-ray for a while, but luckily I got my hands on it earlier of last year, and I love this movie. I love the original Top Gun, but Top Gun Maverick is the better movie than the first one. I know it's a hot take, but I don't care. I thought the sequel was better than the original. It's one of the legacy sequels that actually lived up to the hype, and this movie would not have worked without Tom Cruise. And he fought to keep this in the theater as long as he could because the studio wanted to put this on streaming, and he's like, screw you, we're going to keep this in the theater. And this movie was supposed to come out like in 2019, I believe. And we had a few years, a long delay, but it was worth the wait. And seeing this on the big screen was an incredible experience. The aerial combat was so done well because it was so realistic. They had to make sure that to make the aerial combat more realistic as possible. And yes, Tom Cruise was in the plane, but he was not the one driving it because the Navy was not going to allow him to drive a fighter jet for this movie. So they went and got someone with it who has far more experience but he was still in the passenger seat, and I thought that they made it look believable. Great camera work, great character development, and I love the new cast members. I thought they did a great job of serving Maverick's story. This movie really saved cinema. It did. Even Steven Spielberg came up to Tom Cruise and saying that you saved cinema's ass. And became one of the highest grossing movies that came out in 2022. I love this movie. It really brought back to why we love blockbuster movies so much. All right, next up, it is the Super Mario Brothers, another film that I got for $10 at Best Buy, and I love the Super Mario Brothers. It's one of my favorite films that came out in 2023. And yeah, it made it into my honorable mentions list, and I wished I put this in my top 10, but there have been a lot of movies out there that I enjoyed more. But I love the animation. I love the voice cast. And back then, when this movie was announced and that Chris Pratt was going to be playing Mario, a lot of people made a huge backlash of the casting choice. But when the marketing came around and the trailer started to come out, people were starting to warm up to Chris Pratt as Mario. And by the time this movie came out, it became one of the highest grossing movies of 2023. At first, before Barbie came out, it was the highest grossing film of that year, and it made over $1 billion. And this was a great love letter to the Super Mario fans. Yeah, the story is not the best. It didn't have a deep story. But if you look back and play the Mario games, it didn't have any narrative story whatsoever. And Jack Black playing Bowser was the perfect choice. You couldn't even tell that was actually Jack Black in the movie. And the song Peaches, oh my God, what a highlight of that film. It was so funny and so good that I hope that this get a nomination for Best Original Song. I don't think it has a chance of winning because the song I'm Just Kin from Barbie was better, but you know what? I think that this movie is fantastic, and I love watching this movie again. It was so funny, and I love how meta it was and very self-aware. Love the dynamic between Mario and Peaches and Donkey Kong and his brother Luigi, played by Charlie Day. Holy crap. I mean, it just brought joy and smile on my face. And it didn't matter if the story was not deep because you love the characters and you were so invested, but it was still a fun, entertaining ride from start to finish. All right, next up, it is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse on 4K Blu-ray. I love Across the Spider-Verse. If you've seen my top 10 list best movies of the year, it's definitely my number one favorite movie that came out in 2023. Great follow-up to Into the Spider-Verse. The animation style was fantastic. And apparently, there are two co-leads in the movie. It is Gwen Stacy and Miles Morales. And I thought that the prologue with Gwen Stacy's backstory was so good. I love how he explored the Spider-Verse, the society. Miguel as the main villain, main antagonist, played by Oscar Isaac, was so good. He's such a complex character that you could understand where he's coming from. The action was so good. It was emotional at times, especially the scene with Miles and his mom was one of the highlights of the movie that I got choked up. Not a big fan of the cliffhanger because then we're gonna have to wait a couple of years or so for the movie Beyond the Spider-Verse. But you know what? This is definitely one of the best Spider-Man movies of all time. I won't say it's my favorite Spider-Man movie of all time, but this is up there to be one of the best. And on watching this on the 4K Blu-ray was so good, and I encourage anyone to get this on 4K Blu-ray if you're a fan of this movie. All right, next up, it is John Wick Chapter 4. I love John Wick Chapter 4. You already know that this is one of my top 10 favorite movies that came out last year. If you've seen my last video. Yeah, Keanu Reeves continues to be the GOAT. I love the action set pieces continues to be impressive. It is the longest one of the franchise, and it looked like it could have been the last, but according to the studios, they're looking to make John Wick Chapter 5. So it looks like that we might get another one. And look, if they can do it well and do it right this time, I mean, I don't know if Chad Stahelski is going to come back to return to direct the movie, but you know what? We'll see what happens. I love the action and choreography. It continues to be creative and very inventive and very entertaining, especially with the overhead shot sequences that I mentioned in my top 10 video. It was very impressive. It looked like a video game coming to life. Oh my God, it's so impressive. The 4K transfer was fantastic. I love the couple addition characters in the movie, including Donnie Yen. with playing another blind badass martial artist role since Rogue One. He delivered it, and I thought it was great. Their dynamic with between him and John Wick was very impressive. Yeah, the 4K transfer is beautiful. I think I encourage anyone to get this if you're a big fan of the franchise. Next up, it is Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. I'm not calling it part one because now it's no longer going to have a part two. They're going to call it a different title for the sequel from Dead Reckoning. And yeah, this is definitely one of the best Mission Impossible movies I've seen and definitely one of the best films of the year. It's in my top 10 list. And go and check out my video if you haven't already. It's definitely up there. Tom Cruise continues to do some crazy stunt work to make sure to keep the audience entertained as possible and more realistic, especially with him jumping off of a freaking mountain with on a dirt bike. Oh my God. We've seen that many times in the behind the scenes featurette, but watching in context was so good. Love the 4K quality. I'm impressed how the picture quality looked. And I won't say that this is the best one of the franchise. I will say that the Fallout is still my favorite, but it's definitely a great follow-up to Fallout, and I cannot wait for the sequel and possibly a final installment to the Mission Impossible franchise. Yeah, Tom Cruise is our Lord and Savior, and he's the reason why the film like this can still be made like this today. Next up, I got the collector's edition of 4K Avatar that came out in 2009. It definitely includes three cuts of the film in 4K. On the first disc, you have the special edition re-release, you have the 3-hour extended cut, which I'm so glad that they decided to put this out on the three different versions of the film. I prefer the 3-hour cut of the movie because it adds a lot more character development than they did in the theatrical cut. The 4K transfer, very impressive. And from what I've heard, that the original 4K release for the first Avatar movie was not the best, but this one is much more improvement from what I've seen. And yeah, it has a lot of special features, great documentary, and this is a film that I encourage you to go and purchase if you haven't already. If you're a fan of the first Avatar film and you want to dive in deep into the world of Pandora, especially the behind the scenes of making to what James Cameron had accomplished. I'm one of the people that really love the first one. I understand that the plot is very derivative to Dances with Wolves and Pocahontas, but it wasn't enough to pull me out of it. Was very impressed by the world building with Pandora and what James Cameron had done, especially when he shot it in a mocap stage. And the visual effects and the CGI were perfection. And James Cameron is perfectionist, and he wanted to make sure it looks as perfect as possible. I love the characters, and it was so emotional and epic. And I had a chance to see this in IMAX 3D. I've watched it, I think I watched it at least 2 or 3 times, if I remember correctly. But yeah, getting back into that world and watching it first time in a long time in the cinema was great. And the cover looks so beautiful. I love how they did it, especially in the back when you see Jake Sully and Natiri. And then when you open this up, you got um, you got Jake Sully and the Nateri side by side. It looks great. It looks so impressive. Then you got some of the screenshots of the film. Yep, you got 4 disc, and it looks great. I love it. Yeah, definitely worth every penny. I got this from Walmart, and they were selling out too. I don't know if it's because that some of the manufacturers were not selling as much as for the 4K Blu-ray, and they only like shelve it for at least a limited amount of time. But you know what? It was worth it, and I'm glad I purchased this movie. Oh, next up, I got Avatar: The Way of Water Collector's Edition. I did not get this original 4K Blu-ray release for this movie. I wanted to wait a little while until they gave us a little bit more bonus features on the disc. And yeah, it has a lot of deleted scenes in this movie, and it adds a lot more features of the comparison side by side where you see the cast members performing scenes in the movie when they're shooting on the mocap stage and you see the finished product. How impressive that James Cameron just continues to crush it. And The Way of Water to me is far better than the first one. You follow more on Jake Sully's family, and I was so well invested in them. The performances were much more improvement. The story was much more compelling, and the visual effects and the CGI were much more improvement over the first one. And yeah, I know it took them like 13 years to make this movie, but you know what? I'm glad it was worth the wait. And he's got a lot more Avatar movies coming up, which from what I've heard in about a month or so, they're gonna get back to shooting Avatar 4, which I'm so happy. And I believe that we're supposed to get a third one coming up in at least around 2025. I could be wrong, But yeah, I'm very impressed with the 4K Blu-ray transfer, and I'm glad I waited for this collector's edition to get released. I watched this a lot more than I did in the first one, and it's because it's a better movie. And look at the back cover of this of the whale where Jake Sully's kid were friends with. Love it. And you got another Jake Sully and the Terry side by side shot in the movie. I love it. It looks great. And you got another still shots from The Way of Water. Yep. It's yeah, I really love it. I'm glad I got both of them. I definitely swept those two Avatar movies on 4K Blu-ray. Definitely worth every penny. Now you've seen my collection that I've collected in 2023 so far. I have a lot more 4K, I have a lot more Blu-ray movies that I collected over the last decade that I will eventually show off at some point, but not right now. So if you enjoy this video, make sure you leave it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos to come. And if you want me to show off more of my Blu-ray collection, let me know in the comment section. And also, what movies did you collect this from 2023? I would love to hear what you guys have collected if you're a physical media collector. I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from. So I hope you guys stay safe and take care.